don't have a privacy cloth on this one. Oops, I didn't flash in y'all.
It's out here.
Okay. And this does not work, right? No microphone. So YouTube, I think, has just been picking up from the phone. Is this camera picking up the words for recording? Okay. Chuku kunduzongbo gombo ye Dorje sempa Garab Dorje dang Shire singe bardu shin labde De damavzan tata tusum chi Zog chen jupe lama la solo dib Orgin pema junila solo dib Dorje chang chichilo narudang Marpa mila gompo tsatsapa Na pupadang palden drupa suk Kargyu lama namla solwa dib O chen lama namla solwa dib Dru chen lama namla solwa dib Kaginwari lama namla solwa dib Shakilama namla solwa dib Nyendu dang yundrun lama namla solwa dib Alpandu shang tang yerme pa Gon Garab Dorje jintrak pa Jeti dang nisume pai Alamanam che tente chong the first word to recognize directly the face of Rigpa itself. That is the one thing you decide on. Ngorang toktu Tripatine dangpo o. The first vital point of the three vital points is the introduction directly to the face of Rigpa in and of itself. Introducing your Rigpa to your Rigpa, which it has always known and always been. It changes nothing and everything. Once that has occurred, whether moving occurs or stillness. Now these are words from Mahamudra, where we talk about tawa as the stillness. That's slightly more limited than tawa, because tawa is the Sambhogakaya of the Dharmakaya, the clear light nature of the Dharmakaya, awareness. Whereas when we talk about the stillness, we're referring to the emptiness of the Dharmakaya, in which there is no thing to move. The analogy would be space and matter. Matter moves through space, but space cannot move, since it isn't a thing. Now, forget about molecules of atmosphere, dark matter, and all this complex stuff in science. We're going by what you perceive as a basic Homo sapien directly, not through a machine or hearsay on the internet. Space doesn't move. Atmosphere, molecules of air move through space. It's called wind. But the sky is not blown about by the wind. So your thoughts have no effect on Tawa. Your feelings have no effect on Tawa. You can be elated, depressed. It doesn't matter. Tawa is just there. It's unchanged. So you need to train yourself to notice it, both in times of movement, when the thought stream is flowing, you're jittering, you're ruminating, and in times of stillness, when you drift into shine, resting in stillness. The key point of practice is to notice it on both those occasions. If you only notice it from stillness, which is in the training of Mahamudra, you have to go through several steps to bring it to this point that we just dump you in on your head in Maha'ati. In Mahamudra, first you separate the moving from the stillness so that you become very clear what moves. Thoughts, feelings, sensations, perceptions, experiences, nyams, move, and what does not. Again, the analogy would be all kinds of matter move through space. This kind, liquid matter, springy matter, solid matter, complicated matter, all of it moves through space. Doesn't matter what kind of matter it is. So you begin to recognize what comes and goes is impermanent, and the Tawa that is not impermanent, the stillness that does not come and go. If you don't go through this stage, which is in Mahamudra, in Dzogchen we often end up much later in your practice, finding you trying to stabilize the moving, such as stabilizing your awareness of Tawa so that you are always aware of Tawa. You can't. Attention moves. You cannot make your attention hold still on Tawa forever. You can have an experience where after meditating day and night for a week or two, it seems to, but if you stop meditating day and night, it will stop doing that. Wears off. Gee whiz, it was moving. Here, we have a different method. Instead of spending the time separating the moving and stillness and then bringing them back together in the dance of moving stillness, which is what Mahamudra does. Because some of you are Mahamudra and some of you are Maha'ati. In Maha'ati, we simply, both whether moving is going on or whether we are resting in stillness of shine without an object, we notice the same Tawa either way. And we notice that it is not bothered by the thinking, nor does it bother the thinking. This is the entry into Laktong in Mahamudra, and the entry into cutting through, because it cuts through the patterns of your hang-up-full existence. So when we say, whether in a state of movement or stillness, whether you're sitting in shine, kind of transient, or whether you're totally caught up in a bunch of ruminations, whether it's anger or desire, happiness or sorrow, whatever seems to be going on among the moving, Choam Chaksip Kam Samchi Dam Duk Dang Duk. I don't like whoever did that translation. Dunang Nikap Tamchi Du. At all times, in every situation, Ngoshu Shuko Ngozung La, and that's your key. Recognize the already known Dharmakaya. So what this is, Candace O'Denver calls them quick glances, because it is sort of a glance. In the beginning, as you begin this practice, which is called GOM, it's a specific type of practice that's not on the cushion. It's not instead of sitting on the cushion. It goes with sitting on the cushion. You don't try to hold the Dzogchen view when you get up off the cushion. You're going to be holding on to an experience, a moving. Don't worry, it'll get away. But it's just futile to keep trying that and failing repeatedly, because of course you're going to fail. It's moving. Instead, repeatedly and in every kind of situation, while you're totally enraged at somebody, while you're completely embarrassed about something, while you are horribly depressed, while you're hysterically laughing at a funny movie, everything at all kinds of situations, quickly check and see if your mind is still there. Tawa. And it's fast. In the beginning, it feels like here you are, focused on all the stuff. And then you remember you're supposed to be glancing, so you quick glance to see if Tawa's still there. So it feels like a back and forth. But after a while, if you hold your hand up like this in front of your face, look at your fingerprints. Now look at me. Now look at your fingerprints. Now look at me. That is what it feels like in the middle of practice, like it's just a depth perception shift. By the end, there's no difference. The moving and the stillness are obviously the same thing. For in the stillness, the emptiness, shunyata, there is no thing to move. And yet in the movement, there is also no actual thing to move. In the movement, the stillness is always there. Tawa doesn't come and go. This becomes obvious by your experiences. It changes you. You're moving. Your personality is moving. As in, you do not have the same personality you had at 14. Everybody remember being 14? Yeah. So something changed you between 14 and now. What changed you? Experiences you had? Things you did that either worked or seemed like a good idea at the time? People you interacted with, that you fell in love with, that you fought with, that you broke up with? Pets that you may have had, your cat, your dog, jobs that you may have had, different bosses. Each one of these changes you over time, like little tiny traumas all stuck together in a row. And that makes you different than you were. But Tawa does not change. However, the more the moving you notices that which does not change, it changes because it's an experience, right? It changes the moving you to reflect that more and more. So the mirror more and more begins to simply reflect itself rather than the busy work. So what you want is repeated experience of noticing Tawa, and allow that repetition to change you without trying to get it to make you thinner or taller or younger or, any of the specifics like that. So the key, the second word, to recognize the already known Dharmakaya. The way Words of Dorje, Norbu Rinpoche's teacher, and my teacher's teacher, used to put it. While walking and talking, while getting up and sitting down, whatever you're doing right while you do it, notice the already known Dharmakaya nature of mind. Same thing, slightly different phrasing. Heap more points at don't pause what you're doing to do this. Do it in the middle of it. Don't try to push aside your anger to notice Tawa. Notice it in the middle of it. Don't try to make your distraction go away to see Tawa. Notice right in the middle of your distraction. That's the power of Gom. Different on the cushion. We say that the time on the cushion deepens your meditation, and this practice of Gom off the cushion broadens your experience of meditation. You need both, deeper and broader. Nadrio Salama Putri, and let mother and child luminosity unite. Mother luminosity of ground is that Dharmakaya nature of mind, which has always been there from beginningless time and always will. It is the stillness. Child luminosity of path is the pointing out given by the teacher, and your experience of flashing on that again and again. When your experience of Tawa comes together with the real Tawa, it is inherently stable and cannot destabilize, for it has always been stable. However, experiences are moving. You cannot stabilize the experience of Tawa. You can only allow it to unite with the real Tawa, which has never moved. This is what is meant by, and mother and child clear light, already acquainted will unite. Rest in the aspect of awareness beyond all description. Remember, this is not troubled by the moving. Moving don't bother Tawa, not at all. Look, I'm talking, I'm moving. Tawa, I wasn't bothered, it's right there. See, look at it in your own mind. See Tawa? See, it didn't change. No matter what I do, it won't change. No matter what you do, it won't change. Mother Luminosity of ground. Your practice, the experience of returning your attention to Tawa again and again, without trying to grasp it or lengthen the flash. Don't grab. That experience eventually recognizes itself as, and you are your experiences. So you, the experience of noticing Tawa again and again, eventually recognize yourself as the Tawa that has never changed. You can't make that happen. You can follow the instructions, but it is an allowing it to happen rather than a forcing. Any attempt to force anything in the entire practice of Dzogchen will just squish it. So you have to practice in a relaxed way. Ne de saltro yang yang shik. As the nyams arise, stillness as an experience, bliss, clarity, rumination, thinking, disrupt them again and again. That's where pet comes in. Pop them and look. Pop them while looking. Tab shi yigi lobor bet be a striking with the syllable of skillful means and wisdom, with no difference between meditation and post-meditation. You don't make a difference. When you're meditating, you return your focus to Tawa again and again. You get distracted by either Shine or dancing thoughts. These are the two extremes that distract you from Tawa. You get distracted by a trance out, a little bit close to the dream time where you see the little pictures or colors or lights. You can be distracted by all sorts of thoughts about things. All of these are distractions from Tawa, including stillness. When you break them in your meditation seat, it clarifies it, it deepens Tawa. When you're up and about, you don't necessarily need to use pet, because you don't get stuck in the same thing all the time. You're too active. There, you just do a quick flash, Now, there's a lot of creative ways to avoid doing that. Planning to do it doesn't count. Thinking about doing it doesn't count. Periodically thinking about Tawa doesn't count. What you really want to do is quick check and see if your mind is still there, since we describe Tawa sometimes as mind looking. Have you lost your mind, or is it still there? Your Tawa, your Buddha nature. Just check. When you have a toddler in the house, you kind of always keep checking on it to know what it's doing, either by listening or looking. Can't take your attention off a toddler. They get into God knows what. So it's kind of the same. An obsession. Kind of like an obsession for a while. So if you've at all got OCD, use it here. You continually Yermenangdu Yunduni. that's literally remain in the indivisible state. What they're referring to is trultra, dancing stillness, where you're not separating thoughts from tawa. Thoughts arise in mind. Mind is the thinker of thoughts. Your thoughts arise in mind and they dissolve in mind. You don't have to make them dissolve in mind. They do that. You don't have to make them arise in mind. They do that. But there's nothing that they're made of. They don't have substance. They also don't have, damn this nominal aphasia. Duration, thank you. They don't exist in time or space. A thought does not occupy space. It's not an inch long or a centimeter long or a millimeter long. A thought does not last for a second or a tenth of a second. When you stick a bunch of thoughts together into a thought chain, the thought chain seems to last, but it's actually a whole bunch of teeny tiny thought particles. The Tibetan word for discursive thoughts, for thought chains, thoughts that say things, nam talk. Nam are the particles. Talk are the hooks that hook them together. You don't have to put a talk in there. You can leave just the little nam particles dancing about. In which case, there's no thing moving. This is dancing stillness. So look, right now, you're thinking. You can see tawa while you think. Don't hook them together to make them make sense. Just leave those talk alone. Like Rika in the sky, neither there nor not there, neither inside nor outside. You all familiar with Rika? I don't want to go out. How about you? You know, you're good at Rika. I usually send Jan to show people Rika, but she's not here with us. So go, those of you who don't know what Rika is, go outside with her and she'll show you. They are an analogy, but they're a good one. Not the Tiglies, the Rika. You just all stand in the shade on the porch. You can see it from there. When you look at the Rika in the sky, it's a very good analogy for the untaught nams. Because they don't go anywhere, they don't have duration.
Right.
The moment you see them, they're gone.
Right.
And yet they're multitudes. They're not made of anything.
Right.
They're not inside, they're not outside. So they're an excellent analogy for the dancing stillness, the Rika in the sky, which are not actually things there. And yet perceivable.
Yeah, when I was trying social knowledge work for myself, that's where I got stuck. I didn't recognize that my thoughts were, just like Rika, popping in and out. And so I think going back to the bubble was really nice for me to like sit in that mistake and flush it out.
Yep. Sometimes it's nice to just step back and pick a piece.
That explanation really clarified that for me just now.
Good.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm watching them try to point at them.
There's too many to point to. And also done it all right.
Exactly. So they're an excellent analogy for the moving stillness, the dance of thoughts in stillness, because the space doesn't move. The Rika move, but there's no thing moving. They don't bother the sky. Sky doesn't bother the Rika. No, I can see them inside the room. They're neither inside you nor outside of you. They're neither in your sky nor in the sky nor in your eyeballs. They're an interaction between the two. Thoughts are an interaction between life force and creativity in the spaciousness of Tawa. So always, continuously relax back into it. Anyang tempar me topar. But until the stability, the inherent stability of Tawa, mother luminosity of ground, is directly recognized as inseparable from child luminosity of path, until such a time, it's vital to take yourself away from distractions. You need to simplify your life out. Dudze pangne gompa chi. Nyam shatundu che rajya. You need to divide your meditation into sessions. Don't stop having on-the-cushion sessions. Traditional is a good 6 a day. They don't have to be long. Tibetans, or yogis, not Tibetans, but yogis, generally wake up at false dawn, have a session, get up around sunrise and eat breakfast, have a session after sunrise, and then go do stuff. Go buy sabji at the bazaar, yada yada, or not, or clean your cave. And then so that's 3 sessions. And then you have another session before you sit down to eat lunch. And so that's 4 sessions. And then when the light turns yellow, you have another session. And then you have your supper at sunset. And then after sunset, you have a last session. Now, if your sessions are 10 minutes long, you can actually do this as part of daily life. Tea break at yellow light. You head off to work after your after breakfast session, but there's probably a lunch hour you can pull in one more, or a tea break in the morning, coffee break around 11. Remember, if you're doing 10-minute sessions, which is what's recommended early on, or less. But you see, what you don't want to do is do longer sessions than you can by more than a minute or 2. Otherwise, say you're only capable of a 7 or 8 minute session, but you're going to sit there for 45 minutes. thinking about breakfast, your to-do list. It's pointless. Get up and do something. Have a cup of tea. So you want to figure out how long a session is comfortable for you and stretch it by like maybe 5% at the most, so that there's always a little bit of a challenge to go longer, but not more than is easy and feasible. So you don't end up sitting on your cushion ruminating, having fantasies. Does this make sense? All the time, dudang nekap tamchi du, at all times and in all circumstances. Chukuchik Puyolanchang, abide by the flow of what is just Dharmakaya. You see that? Dharmakaya Tawa. The flow of Tawa. It is stillness, but it is dancing stillness. It is a flow of occurrences in which no things occur. Thoughts are not things. Feelings are not things. Sensations are not things. You interpret a sensation with thoughts into being a thing. I have sensations in my tongue and mouth. I interpret it as thirst from talking so much, dryness. Now I have a very cool, soothing sensation. I interpret it as water. Now we could interpret it as vodka, just if we wanted to. And then we would think it was vodka. I once had a bottle of very good whiskey, which had been drunk by me and my friends, so we filled it with iced tea. And I gave an entire teaching while swigging from this thing, because it was a teaching on Guru Yoga, and they were upset with the Guru. Well, I also had my clothes off at the time, and was sitting on a step ladder with a colander on my head. The point I am trying to make here is, let the occurrences flow by. In the highest practice, once you step into full Dzogchen and stable Trekcha, there's an accelerant called Togyal. In Togyal, we use the phrase, the display. The display is all and everything that you perceive through your senses and then interpret with your thoughts, and then have feelings about your interpretation, and make this big clump called a perception, which you then stack up together as an experience. Stack it long ways in time. First of all, you're making them up. Second of all, they're making you up. If you see yourself as a victim, you will repeatedly experience things that will reify that. If you see yourself as not a victim, you will also, even in things where someone else would feel victimized, you will feel as if you were in control, because that's your pattern. So it really depends. The traumas will go in according to what you think is going on and how you feel about that, not according to anything external. So you want to train yourself to see through circumstances, to not be knocked off balance by the intensity of this display. First of all, it's going to be super intense in the bardo and you're going to have to deal. So you might as well get used to meditating in intensity. So in the beginning, you figure life is going to give you enough intensity. If it doesn't, go find some. I had a teacher of chud, 9-fingered top gel. He used to take us out on Sundays to find intensities. Biker bars. You go out dressed like this and do chud, you know, with the trumpet and all in a biker bar. See what happens. Intensity. Interesting training. He was called 9-fingered top gel because he wrapped one of his fingers, I think it was this one, left hand, in an oil-soaked rag and then circumambulated Bodhgaya stupa while he burned it down as a butter lamp. He was a very interesting teacher. He had more gonzo than Hunter S. Thompson. Unfortunately, the survival rate among his students was not that high, like maybe 25%, 30%. You don't have to pull a top gel. Life will provide you with enough intensity, even if it's an intensity of boredom. Well, you're telling yourself a story that you find boring about your life, and so you're having that feeling about it. Did Tawa move while all this happened? Did your mind move? Check and see. Is it where you left it? Have you mislaid it anywhere? You know how you frequently check your pocket for your keys? Like when you're out of an evening drinking? Or your wallet or, you know, whatever, your condoms. You just like check, make sure it's still there every so often. Do that with Tawa. Do it drunk. Do it sober. Do it stoned. Do it not stoned. Whatever you normally would be doing. I'm not saying go use drugs if you don't, but whatever you normally do, check on Tawa while you're doing it. If you don't drink, don't drink. Check on Tawa when you're excited. In the middle of a ball game. While playing basketball. While making love. At all these times, at all times and on all occasions. This will bring you into the natural abiding by the flow of what is really nothing more than Dharmakaya nature of mind. Its aliveness, its lucidity, its awakeness is Sambhogakaya. Sambhogakaya is an aspect of Dharmakaya. And its creativity to manifest all the thoughts, feelings, and sensations which make up perceptions, which make up experiences. Its manifesting of those, which are called phenomena, or the display, is Nirmanakaya. But that's not separate. No more than Rika are separate from the sky. Dele Shinme Kotachi. Decide with absolute conviction that there is nothing other than that. Takche toktu chepatinya pa o. Second vital point is deciding on one thing and one thing only. Tawa. Rigpa. All these words, they point at the same thing. Chuku, a Dharmakaya. Chuku Rigpa, Dharmakaya awareness. Chuni, literally big Dharma or real Dharma, means Svabhavakaya, the union of Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya. Tawa, George. It's all pointing at the same thing. One thing. Point your nose at it and keep moving your feet. That's all you have to do. You don't have to get caught up in your hopes of what it's going to do for you. You don't have to get caught up in your fears of what might be chasing you into here, or what it might not do for you, or how you might not be doing it right, or how everybody else must have it a better way. You know those? Well, those are Nam talk, discursive thoughts. Rika. Check and see if the Dharmakaya is still there. This is how you practice the entrance into Dzogchen. When mother and child luminosity unite, and you have directly developed confidence in the natural and innate liberation of all rising thoughts, feelings, and sensations, then you can practice real Dzogchen. This is how you get there. So in a little bit, this is Dzogchen light. But it's nice to have a map. Questions? It was that clear? Or you're all just stunned, bunny?
I have a question.
Yes.
During my practice yesterday and this morning, I had recurrent thoughts, and I just observed them and let them go. How could I know whether I'm resting in Tawa, or if I'm being mindful, like I'm practicing Vipassana?
Knowing something is a thought. So that, how can I know which of these it is? You allow those to arise and vanish of their own accord while checking on Tawa off the cushion and while resting in and as Tawa on the cushion.
So it's more of an experience.
You're still going to be having an experience of Tawa. Until mother and child luminosity unite, you will experience Tawa. Experiences are moving. Remember, an experience is a clump of perceptions, and a perception is a clump of thoughts, feelings, and sensations, which are mind-made. So, trying to figure out with thoughts whether it is or is not is futile. Some days you will think it is, whether it is or not. And some days you will think it isn't, whether it is or not. So you don't really need to bother with that. You just let those go bloop, 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 and don't talk them. Other questions?
Would you say that we're trying to make the child as close to the mother as we can until it releases into?
No.
Okay.
You can't do that on purpose. You can't make it do anything. What you are trying to do is, as the child luminosity, continually notice the mother. No, I didn't say that quite right. As your own innate awareness, continuously notice your own innate awareness. That was a little better. Let's do it. That maybe it might be easier to point to. Go on, line yourself up. You're cocking your head. I'm really going to get after you all about posture. You'd be surprised how long I did not pay attention to posture because, and the difference it made when I finally did. Guys, the reasons I know where all the holes in the road are is because I fell in every one of them, sometimes twice. I was a very poor student. This is your advantage. So, take the you, the seer, the one that, if you are Tibetan raised, looks out from your heart, looks out through your eyes from your heart. The seer sees itself. Without using a mirror, gaze into your own eyes. Or have a thought, follow it home. Where do them thoughts be happening? Look and see, feel. Don't think at it, feel at it. Tawa, mother luminosity of ground. The activity, which being an activity is moving. To look at Tawa, mother luminosity of ground, again and again, changes your awareness, your personality, to be reflective more and more of Tawa as it is, and less of your hang-ups as they are. Over time, slowly, without losing your personality, child luminosity of ground is the pattern of the story of how you did the practices until such time as inherent stability was recognized. The story, the path. Every Buddha has a story. How that being became that Buddha. In the fullness of time, in the receipt of lineage, in the receiving teachings and the passing them on, there is always a story, because that infinite, open, lively awareness, life force of the universe, this bodhisattva, which is the interconnectivity of all life, all beings, experiences the dance of phenomena within the space-time continuum as stories. And so there are multiple stories. They don't all match up. People, historians, who keep trying to make sure the stories are correct as if such a thing were possible, keep trying to get Guru Rinpoche's lives to line up. So far, no luck. And many of the old religions, the storyteller was more important than the shaman, or was the shaman. Because keeping the old stories matters. Relax. Into the open awareness. Mind, seeing mind. That infinite vast spaciousness in which the thoughts arise and vanish again and again. Notice. Look right through those thoughts. You don't have to banish them to see Tawa, for they arise in Tawa, exist for no time in Tawa, and vanish in Tawa. When you watch them do this in Tawa, whether they are of things you want or things you fear, each and every one of the momentary Nam thought particles, when you watch them arise in Tawa, you see that they dissolve in Tawa, and we're never anything other than Tawa, and we're not made of anything other than Tawa, and had no duration within Tawa. For Tawa is outside of time and space, neither size, dimension, nor duration has relevancy there. So you just sit there and let them do that. When you do not look through the transparent thoughts at Tawa, but rather allow them to talk themselves together and create stories, or you intentionally talk them together and create stories because it's a habit of yours, or because it's more interesting, entertaining, and will protect you from the big old Tawa. When you stick them together, you're going to make karma with them. More karma. When you sit long enough, utterly relaxed in Tawa as Tawa, allowing the thoughts to act just like Rika, which is what they do anyway, but not sticking them together and pretend they make sense. Slowly over time, weeks, months, years, samsara, the display, completes itself. And reality may occur, or at least be recognized. This is sometimes referred to as rainbow body. Other questions?
What do you mean by the display
you're not creating any more karma. And any karma that comes up not being grasped or rejected unravels. Eventually, your story is complete. At which point, you do not exist for yourself, because there is no need for a self-image. Rather, you exist as a response to the people around you. So there remains responsiveness. But there is no need for volition. No need for chasing wants and fleeing fears. Nonetheless, responsiveness to whatever is occurring with thoughts, feelings, with all of the aspects of the display may well occur for those around you. From inside, nothing happens. It just is. And both realities can be true at once. Did that answer? Did you also have one? Go ahead.
When you said or I understood being in power, in us, I can identify resistance for the being as not.
That will pass. The funny thing with Dzogchen is you just actually, all you have to do is follow the instructions. And all sorts of things happen in the process. You have resistance to this, you like this, you don't like that, this is scary. All sorts of experiences happen. And because you're paying attention, you notice them more. So it's like monsoons and all that weird green stuff in the jungle, said by a Tibetan from the high plateaus in India. You get all sorts of sensations and you just keep going following the instructions. And each one of you will have different sensations. So you'll find the resistance there. Somebody else will find a sense of boredom there and resist in that way. Someone else will be afraid somewhere in the process and resist in that way. Someone else will twitch. It's all going to go into their muscles. And that's how they're going to resist. So you just out-stubborn yourself and keep going when you notice the resistance. Because in the end of the matter, resistance is futile. You have been enlightened from beginningless time to endless time. There's no way out. So you might as well relax and go for it. Other questions?
It seems like if someone reaches the point where no volition needs to happen, it almost seems like it's impossible to stay in the world because of the conditions, and it's only could be achieved in like monastic settings.
Not from what I have seen, because of responsiveness. If you're in the world, you respond to the world. I have known teachers who have been there like that. With age, one becomes less good at booking air flights and managing minutiae. Thank you, guys. But that's age. I don't know that that's practice, although some people say it is. What I have noticed with teachers that I have run around with, gotten drunk with, been homies with, and even with the Dalai Lama, who I have had the lovely experience of being, like a flea on a wall Rinpoche told me to be invisible when he was there so he wouldn't see me, which meant like I could really watch everything because nobody could see me. There's a trick to it. So, watching him as my best example, Dalai Lama, there was an adamantine curiosity of delight, but no desires, no hopes and fears. Just a delight in whatever the display presented in this moment. A delight of curiosity, almost, to see what it might display next. But beyond that, I saw no signs of attachment, and this is when he thinks he's all alone. You know, sitting on his balcony and watching the sunset or something. Other teachers that I have known well, you can still be in the world because the flow, which is the actualization of the initiatory archetype Mogo City, of the northern direction, of the water element, is all accomplishing wisdom. So things get accomplished because you're not trying to push any rivers. This does not stop the river from flowing when you stop pushing it. You'll be really surprised, since you've been pushing the river all your life and you think that's what makes it go. But actually, when you stop pushing the river, nothing changes. It still flows. You will find this as a surprise. Does that give you some answers you can work with? Who else has a question? What?
Is that Nandwa? What does Nandwa? Your experience of the display?
Oh, Nyam. A Nyam is a meditative experience.
No, you said the word Tokyal?
Togyal, no. Togyal is a practice.
Oh, okay. There is nothing.
No, it's a specific Tibetan yoga practice that is done as an accelerant to Trekchö once Trekchö has reached a certain level. For example, if I were to need to teach you to rub your stomach and pat your head while riding a bicycle, it would be fairly important that you were good at balancing and riding a bicycle before I taught you to do this while steering with your legs and body while doing it, right? Otherwise, it's just not going to work, is it? And probably be accident prone. So it's really important for Togyal that you've got your Trekchö pretty damn solid. Otherwise, you can't even be taught because there's no way to talk about how to do it. They say in the beginning books, or in some books, texts, although I suspect this was a funky translation, that Togyal is not taught until Trekchö has stabilized. Yeah. I suspect that might have been a joke, because you'll never stabilize anything that isn't already stable. In the back.
Yeah, so the idea of looking at the looker, seeking the seeker, I got the words that you used exactly, but I introduced it fairly recently, and I feel like I'm having issues with it. One of the things that you have a hard time with it, best way of someone I heard someone describe it as
happens.
It happens, and then you follow it back and
Yeah.
see it. But even then, when I did that just now, it goes into amorphous cloud, it's amorphous space.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to be looking for a...
No.
No.
No, you're supposed to be resting in that amorphous space, which is you. It'll deepen. It'll become more clear over time. But yeah, you're going in the right direction. You're not supposed to be finding a thingy. Ain't no thingies in there. Other questions? Yeah, I'll take those.
Some Dzogchen masters say that thought is samsara. So when the display of samsara, thoughts and appearances, completes itself, do thoughts still arise?
I don't know. I have not. Here.
Can you explain rainbow body?
Yes. If you got rainbow body and you didn't already have rainbow body, then you couldn't keep rainbow body. It would be a come and go. If it has a beginning, it's going to have an end. You have a rainbow body already. You just can't see it for the meat. And your habit of perpetually paying attention to the display of which the meat is part. Your channel body is your rainbow body. When you see these circles around the head of the Tonka, have these little lines going out,
Yeah.
that's your rainbow body. There's one around you too. There it is. I have to shift my eye focus, but I can see them. So, for as long as you are obsessed with things that dweeble and go bump, with the moving, your meat, your friends, your work, your this, your that, and your supper, your other thing, for as long as you obsess with these things, it will shade, occlude, keep you from seeing your rainbow body. But it's there. You don't go rainbow. You sure. Tawa has always been there and always will be. Thoughts, as near as I can see, remain but do not become anything. More on that tomorrow afternoon when we start talking about SOPA. The spontaneous inaction of arising. I know some people call it conduct. It's got nothing to do with conduct or behavior. Conduct is like behavior. It's got nothing to do with that. Action, but you don't do it. Confidence directly in the liberation of rising thoughts as they rise. SOPA. So I cannot say there are thoughts or there are no thoughts, because nothing changes the itch. But if you needed to communicate with someone, yeah, you'd stick them together with talk so you could make an intelligible phrase to somebody. Garab Dorje gave this whole text from Rainbow Body. He gave this after he died. He died, he sat Tudom. He got stuck on the flames for cremation, because this is India, not Tibet, where we don't do sky burials in India. He's cremated, and then this circular rainbow body, circular, they tend to be kind of looking circular, arises in the sky, and Garab Dorje gives this full text dictated to Jomposhini, because Jomposhini heard that Garab Dorje was in Tudum and was rushing to get there to see him before he passed, and he wasn't fast enough. So he was all freaked out. And he's like, oh my God, teacher, I've missed you. I'll never see you again. I haven't got the final teachings yet that'll lead me through. Help. And so his rainbow body form, Garab Dorje in the sky, gives these teachings. And they're really good for that. Du da che che sala go Paso. May all beings notice what they really are. So tonight you get homework, quick glances, and a session before sundown and one after sundown. And tomorrow morning a session before dawn and a session after. Just shorties. Even if you just sit up in bed going, oh yeah, it's getting on for morning. It'll do. I just want you to try. And then quick glances all the other times. If you cannot remember to make a quick glance, write it on your partner's forehead. Oh, it'll just be a cluster if you all come up.
I can take a bunch and just pass them out over there in the back.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like New Orleans at Mardi Gras throwing the necklaces. How about in there?